Hi guys, good morning. Right, so welcome to our last week of our GDG DevFest 2020. So this year, due to the outbreak of COVID, unfortunately, we are forced to run this year's DevFest online. I know, most of you enjoy attending our events for free stuff, our swag, stickers, and interacting with our speakers as well as with us, I hope. Anyways, hopefully we'll be able to run physical events again next year, hopefully. And so this year, what we've planned for you guys was a month's worth of events for you guys, together with the GDG KL Kuala Lumpur as well as GDG Singapore. So these are all the people that we have collaborated with throughout this whole month. So these are chapters that we've worked together to make this event a successful one. And also, thank you guys for making this event successful. Without you guys, we will just be talking to ourselves mainly. So if you'd like to know more about them, you can basically search them up on Facebook. So these are all the names. You can search them out on Facebook: GDG Kuala Lumpur, GDG Cloud Kuala Lumpur, GDG George Town, which is us, GDG Cloud Singapore, GDG Singapore, WTM Kuala Lumpur, WTM Georgetown, WTM Singapore, Google Developer Space, as well as GBG Georgetown. So GBG is our Google Business Group, which will be having a session later in the afternoon. So just a little bit about us. So who are we exactly? So I think most of you guys probably have heard of us if you follow our events. So okay, GDG stands for Google Developer Group. We are managed by a team who is passionate in building the tech community and bringing experts to share their experiences as well as teach us about the new Google technologies. So we started our GDG Georgetown started in 2013. We have been organizing many years of DevFest, Google I/O, certain talks as well. So we are non-profit, of course, because we want to build a community for like-minded developers, or even non-developers can join us. We just want to share our experiences in developing applications with open source technologies. So over the years, we have organized various events from talks, workshops, as well as hackathons and conferences. Every year we have series of uh, code labs, study jams as well. That's open to anyone and everyone. As long as you have the passion and the will to learn, we welcome you. So okay, here is our QR code. Those watching, you can just scan the QR code on screen and it will direct you to our Facebook page where you can follow us and catch up with us on upcoming events, latest news in tech and the new technologies. And soon we are planning something a little bit different, maybe. Yeah, maybe something fresh, and hopefully you guys can join in with us. Anyways, so without any, just hit the QR code. I'm just gonna leave it here for a short while, just so you guys can scan the QR code. Yeah, anyways, all right. So let's get back. Okay, so joining us today, let's introduce our first speaker, Yong Shean. Yong Shean is a senior software engineer at Commerce. I hope I got the name right. Solutions in building beautiful and responsive UI for the web and mobile. She has contributed to building both simple websites and sophisticated web applications. Her areas of focus are in the development and testing of React and GraphQL applications. Recently, she started her journey with Flutter. So today, she'll be touching on how to apply test-driven development (TDD) when developing a mobile application with Flutter and other packages in the Dart ecosystem. So let's pass it to Yong Shean now, shall we?
All right, thank you. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for the kind introduction. And good morning, everyone. So I'm going to start first by talking about test-driven development with Flutter. Rachel, can you put my screen sharing? Okay. All right. So before I start, let me introduce just a little bit more about myself. I'm Yong Shean. I'm a software engineer who mainly work on web and mobile app development, and I'm using React and Flutter. I have started using Flutter for more than a year now. So sometimes it has its glitches, but most of the time I'm enjoying the perks of using it, like it being fast and performant and the good developer experience that comes with it, like how you can build a UI fast, and also it has the hot reloading feature, which is super cool. So, sorry. Let me switch to, yeah. So before I start, for those who haven't heard of Flutter before, what is Flutter? So Flutter is an open source cross-platform app development framework that is developed by Google. So the main philosophy of the framework is you'll be able to write once and deploy everywhere. And it is still quite a new framework because it has its first stable version released on December 2018. So yeah, I think most of us are pretty new to this, but no worries. I will try to go slow a bit. And yeah, let's first look at what is the usual cycle of software development before we dive into the test-driven development. So maybe you will start to write the code first, and then after that, you do some manual testing, like you start the simulator or the browser, and then you try to test it out. And then after that, you write some code again, and then you want to make it tidier. So you refactor it, and then you do some manual testing again on the device. And then now you realize that, oh no, it breaks. Then after that, you have to go back to the code and try to fix it. Yeah, so this cycle, it might be long if, let's say, you cannot fix the bug that you introduced. And then finally, if you are lucky, then maybe you have done the manual testing and see that, hey, now everything works fine. So now I can start writing my unit tests. And then only you found out that, oh no, there are some parts that it is very hard to test. Like sometimes you have very tightly coupled code, and then you find it is very difficult to write unit tests for that. Then after that, you might decide whether to refactor your code again, or some of you might as well just skip it because the effort is too big to make it testable. So how would your life be different if we start writing tests first? Now we can first look at what TDD is about. So yeah, like what is the essence of test-driven development? So by literally, it means that you are writing tests first before you write your production code. So the cycle of TDD would be like, you actually write the test first, and then you make sure that it fails. Then after that, you will go to your code, you add some code to it, and then after that, you run your test again, make sure that it passed. Then after that, you will write the next test, and then you run it again, and it fails, and then you go back to your code. So the cycle repeats. Then finally, you will try to refactor your code, make it look less messy, or you try to make the code, like try to optimize the code. And then finally, you run the test again, make sure that you didn't break anything. So there are 3 laws of TDD. Like, notice that here it says it's a law. It's not a guiding principle, but it is a law that you should follow. So let's look at what are the laws. So first is you can't write any production code until you have written a failing test. Then second is you can't write more of a test than is sufficient to fail, and not compiling is considered as failing. And finally, you cannot write more production code than it is sufficient to pass the currently failing test. So by looking at these 3 laws, you might think, wow, this is really strict, man. Like, it feels like it can be a very tedious cycle, and then you have to repeat the cycle for many, many times. And each cycle might take about, it depends on how complex is your test. It might take like from 5 seconds to 5 minutes. So now we can look into each of the law and see what does it mean. So the first law is you cannot write any production code until you have written a failed test. So the very first step is always to write a test and make sure that your test fail. Then only you will go back to write your implementation. So that's what it means. Then second law is the unit test that you wrote should be just sufficient to fail and not compiling is failing. So this is related to the first law. So you don't write any more tests when your test is already failing. So it's like you write the minimal code that is sufficient to make it fail, and not compiling is considered as failing as well. Then finally, write production code to be just sufficient to pass the test. So sometimes you might be tempted when you go back to write your implementation, you might be tempted, okay, I roughly know I should write this much of the code in order to make it pretty, but then hold that, because in TDD, we should just make the very minimal step that is required to make the currently failing test pass. So now that we have learned the 3 laws of TDD, but why do we want to do that? What are the advantages that we gain from this? So there are 5 reasons. First is we can avoid writing codes that are hard to test, because we will not be able to write codes that are tightly coupled. And without this process, we will write codes that are difficult to test because the dependencies will not be isolated. And then by using TDD, your code will naturally be written or crafted in a way that it is clean, reusable, and also testable. And the second reason is it will make you focus on the requirement itself. So like too many of us will want to start to jump right into coding without even thinking about what are the requirements to meet first. So by using TDD, it makes you think or ponder about the requirement before you start writing, so that we can avoid, like sometimes we try to over abstract our implementation, make it super complicated even when we are just solving an easy problem. And the third reason is it can reduce our debugging time. Why? Because when we only do one thing and make one small step at a time, instead of going back to what we have written 10 minutes or half an hour ago, we only go back to what we have written like maybe 5 seconds to 1 minute ago. So now you can just rewrite them. If let's say your code that has been written in the past 1 minute make the test fail, then you will know that, okay, it's exactly this one line that caused it to fail. So it makes our debugging much easier. And the fourth reason is with TDD, we can incrementally derive solutions, because I understand that sometimes it is very hard to write good codes in the beginning. So with writing tests, incrementally, we can derive a solution that works. And also after that, we can confidently rewrite the code because we already have the test in place. And finally, to me, this is also one of the important reasons, because it is not fun at all to write tests after the fact. Like after you have completed your implementation, you have manually tested it that, okay, it seems to work. Then now you have to write the unit test because your boss asks you to do so. It is not fun at all. Okay, so now we can jump right into the demo and see how can we do this in Flutter. Okay, let me switch to the coding screen. Okay, before that, like what is the app that we are trying to build today is exactly this startup name generator that is in the code lab. Yeah, you can find this on the Flutter Code Labs page. So this is what we are going to build today by using TDD. So now, once you have started the project, you have created the app, you can use Flutter Create to create this app. And then I removed some of the code that is bootstrapped from there. And then I left with a very minimal shell here. So now it just have one material app and with the title startup name generator. And then it contains a scaffold. So if you run this app, now it is already running, and you will just see a blank screen like this. So we are going to start by writing our first test. Okay, so the test, we usually put it under the test folder. And then the naming convention is it has to end with test.dart so that when you run your test, then it can know that, okay, so this is a test, so that it can run the test for you. So now let's go to the startup name list test. And then here we can add our first test. Okay, let's write the test widget. Yeah, actually this one is a code snippet that I have added in Visual Studio Code. So if you are not aware of the feature that you can add a custom code snippet, you can actually add it at here. So there is a .json file. This is inside the Visual Studio Code configuration. And this is just what I add here so that I don't have to repeat this every time, because you will see this pattern when you are writing a widget test. So let's add our first test. Okay, what should be our first test? We can check the UI design. Here, we need to have a screen that has the app title startup name generator. So let's do that. So our first test should show the title in app bar. And then here we need to pump our startup name list widget, which we have not created yet, but I'm sure that this will fit the test. So let's do this. Startup name list. Okay, sorry, it is importing from the solution that I have here, so I shouldn't do this. Let me save this, and then you can try to run. You can just press the run here or here, but yeah, it will actually refuse to run it for you because there is build error. Obviously, that's because the startup name list widget is not defined yet. So now we can go back to our main and then try to define one. Let's see. So here by right, we should just show the startup name list. Okay, this is annoying. Let me remove this. And now we need to create a new widget called startup name list. Okay, then now we can create a new stateless widget first. Let's call this startup name list, and then import the material package. And here we can import it from there. Let's import from this. Yep, save it, and then you can now run the test again. Wait, let me import this first. And run the test. You can run it by clicking here, or if you are like me, I don't like to use my mouse, you can also assign a keyboard shortcut. So here I have assigned a new shortcut, Shift Option T, to run all the tests. So whenever I have saved the file, and then I can just use the shortcut key to run all my tests again. Okay, now it passed. So now we can continue to write the next test. So what should be our next step? Now we have to check that if it actually shows the title in the add bar, and then it is showing the correct title. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to expect that we can find a widget with tags. So the first is a widget type. Widget type should be the add bar. And then with the name startup text generator, startup name generator. And then the method means that, okay, I should expect that I can find exactly one widget in the widget tree. So I will use this. So now we have the test, we can run again. Okay, now it fails. And the reason of failing is it cannot find the add bar because we haven't included in our startup name list, obviously. So now we can come back to here. Okay, sorry, it's here. And then now we can put our add bar here. So what we can do is we define a scaffold, and then we put the add bar here. So add bar will take title, and then title accept a text widget called startup name generator. Okay, now we can run the test again and see if it passed. Oh no, still failed. What happened? Startup name list, startup name generator, it cannot find. Am I importing correctly? Yes. It is here. Wait, let me see how do I solve this. Am I missing something here? Okay, let's cheat a bit and see what have I defined earlier. So in my startup name list, I have a scaffold with the add bar. Did I make a typo? No. Okay. Well, let me just delete the files here first. And then the files here as well. I am thinking that it might be because it doesn't have a material app. Let me try this. Material app accept a home. Okay, and then I can run this again. Okay, so it passed. Phew. All right, now we can continue to write our next test. So what should we test now? Now probably we should test that if the entries can be displayed correctly. So this one might contain a few tests. So let's create a group. So a group can group a few widget tests together. So let's name this group. Let's name it as display entries correctly. And then after that, here we can write our next test, which is test widget. Okay, we might want to make sure that it shows an empty placeholder when there's no entry. So this is the case when there's no entry. Let's do this. Show empty placeholder when there is no entry. So here, okay, instead of having to write this every time, let's create a function that can wrap our widget with the material app. So we can do this. We can write a function called wrap in app widget. It's in the widget, and it should return me material app, and then has a home property of widget. And this should return me a widget as well. So now we can use this wrap in app, and then here as well, wrap in app, and we put in our startup name list, save it, and then run it again, make sure that it still pass. Okay, it still pass. Now, how do you know when there's no entry? When there's no entry at where? We should probably put in something into our startup name list. So here we should accept an argument, maybe call it entries. And then it has an empty array because it has no entry. So, and obviously this fails because we haven't defined the name parameter in our startup name list widget yet. So let's go back to our startup name list, and then we can create one here. Okay, we have decided to call it entries. So let's do this. Entries should contain a list of string, and then we can create a constructor. Okay, and then save it. See if the if the test can build now. We can run the test again. Blah blah blah. Okay, now it passed. Now we can continue to write this test. Okay, now let's see. We can expect that we can find the empty placeholder in the widget tree. So let's call the widget empty placeholder. And then we should be able to find one widget. Okay, now the test we will not be able to build because we haven't defined the empty placeholder yet. So now let's define this. We can go back here and then we create a new widget called empty placeholder. So again, like just now, we can create a new stateless widget. We call it empty placeholder, import material, and then save it. And now we go back to our test and import it. And let's see, now it will be able to pass the test or not. Let's run it. So now it fails because we don't have the empty placeholder in our startup name list widget tree, obviously, because we haven't put it in. So now we can go back to the startup name list widget and try to put this in. So to make the test pass, actually we can do this. We can just add the body and then I put in the empty placeholder here. You might think that I'm cheating, but then you should not be tempted that at this point you want to implement the whole thing, like checking if the entries is empty and so on, because that would probably be enough to pass our test. So let's run it. And it does. So the test passed. So now we should stop here and then continue to write our next test. Okay, so now what should we write for our next test? Now we have the empty entry scenario taken care of. We should test now with at least one entry. So let's write another test. And now we have the show a tile for each entry. Okay, then again, here we are writing the same code. We pump the startup name list, but this time we should provide at least one entry here. So entries, let's put in one entry called name one. Okay, at this point you can run the test again, see if it start to fail. No, it still passed, then you can continue to write your test. You can continue to write until the test fails. Okay, what can we test here? Now we can expect that we can find widget with text list tile because we want to show a tile for each entry. And then here we just use the built-in list tile provided by the material package. Okay, then it should have name one on the list tile. And we should exactly find one widget. Okay, now we save it and try to run the test again. Now it should fail, yes, because it cannot find the list tile with name one. So now we can go back to our startup name list, try to add something here. What can we add here? Now we can finally do the checking, like, okay, if the entries is empty, then we show the empty placeholder. else, then we will show the list tile, correct? Okay. Okay, list tile with the title of text that contain our first entry. Okay, entries. First, I'm going to treat like this, but this is exactly what TDD should be, because you shouldn't be overthinking how you should implement first. You just have to make sure that it is sufficient to make your test pass. The refactor and all that can come later. Okay, now we have this. Let us try to run the test again. What is failing? The app bar is missing. Hey, wait, did I accidentally deleted something? Why does this fail? Oh no, there's so many unexpected error. Okay, this is at this line. Why does this fail again? If I run this, it should pass. If I run this, it fails. Okay. If I run this, what is happening? We have the wrap in app, startup name list, or should I not wrap this? Just let me try, even though we have this just now. No, it doesn't work. Oh no, let me know in the comments if you know how to fix this, but I think at the moment I will just skip this for now. Too bad I didn't pray to the demo god today. So yeah, let's continue from here. Okay, now we have the test case for first entry pass. Now we can continue to test for the case when we have two entries. So we can continue from here, and to save time, I will copy this and add the second entry like this. And then now we can check that in our startup name list, we can actually find a list tile with name 1 and also a list tile with name 2. So this is exactly what we are going to do. We will run this. Okay, save this and run. Now it will fail. Because it couldn't find the list tile of name 1. That is weird. Let me comment this and run. Okay, maybe this test output is just outdated. Let me run this. Okay, run the test again. Okay, it cannot find with name 2. Okay, now we can go back here and then try to see what we can do here. So instead of just showing the first entry, now we should actually loop on this and make sure that it can show both entries. So what can we do here? We should probably have a list view. We can wrap this with list view, and list view takes in children. And what we can do here is, instead of just returning this, we should loop on our entries. And then on each entry, we should return a list tile. Title, with the title, text, entry. Okay, what's the error? Okay, it's the type issue. So because by default map, it will return an iterable, but then our list view children will need list. We will just convert it to list. And then now we try to run it again. Okay, now it should pass. Okay, now we have both of the cases covered. So right now we can move on to the next test, which is we also need to show an icon for each tile, because here we have the favorite icon on each list tile. So now we can write a test for that. So let's see, we can add below this test and have a test widget. So this test should be show an icon for each tile. So again, here we can, okay, to save time, I'll just copy from here. And then try to run this test. Okay, it still passed, so we continue to write the test. We can expect that, okay, how should we check this? If we want to find the icon, we can use this finder instead of using the widget with text, because widget with text, it only takes in the text. It only checks if the text exists. But now we are checking the icon. So let's use a different one. We call it find.descendant. And find.descendant means that here, the off here, you can put what is the parent. So the parent is our widget with text, so that it can identify the exact list tile with name 1 on it. And then what should it match? It should match our icon. So we can find by icon. And then what icon should we need to find? That one is icon.favorite outline. Because by default, when it's not favorited, then it should display the outline version of the favorite icon. So now matcher, we should exactly find one widget. Okay, save this and then run the test again. Okay, now the test failed because it couldn't find the icon. So now we can go back to our startup name list. And then we add an icon here. So we should add an icon in the list tile. Yes. So list tile accept a trailing argument, and with icons.favorite outline. Yep, this is what we should use. Once we save it, and then we can try to run the test again. Please pass. Yes, it passed. Okay. Now we can continue to test when there are two entries. So let's see. Okay, maybe I'll copy from here. Before I continue, let me just run the test and make sure that it still passes. Okay, now we can do the same checking, but this time for both name 1 and name 2. So this is name 1 and this is name 2. Save it and then run the test again. Will it pass? Yes, it passed. So now that this test should be completed. Okay, what should we test next? Probably the final group of tests that we should actually test on the functionality of adding it to favorite. Wait, before that, we can also test on the state of the favorite icon. Because here, when we tap on the icon, it should change to the filled version. And then when we tap on this one, it should change back to the outline version. So we can test exactly that in our next group of tests. So let's create a new group. Let's call this the favorite icon should work correctly. Okay, now we can do our next test, that is test widget. Okay, our first test would be when tap on the favorite icon, and if it's currently outlined, it should switch to the filled version, right? Yeah, switch to filled. Okay, now we can pump our widget. So I'm lazy like that, so I just copy and paste here. And then try to run the test. Okay, it passed, so at least it can render the widget correctly. So okay, before we do the tapping, we should actually check the initial state. So let's do this. So initial state is we should be able to find the favorite outline icon on the list tile. So let's do this aspect that we can find the, okay, I will just use back the icon finder here. Paste here. So this is checking the initial state and see if it's passing. Okay, it passed. Right. Then after this, we can now do the tapping. So how do you tap in Flutter? So you can use this tester.tap. So what should we tap on? We should tap on this finder. So let me just create a variable for this. So this is an icon finder. And then tap on the icon finder. Okay, let me run the, oops. Okay. Let me run the test again. Okay, it hasn't failed yet, so we can continue. Then usually after every action, I would run the pump and settle so that after every action, you will pump a new frame to the widget tree so that you can see the changes. And then now what should I expect? I should expect that it will change the icon to favorite. So let's do this. Expect what? Icon finder. This one. This finds one widget, except that this line, this time it has changed to favorite. Okay, and then we can run this again. And it fails because it cannot find the favorite icon, because we in our startup name list we haven't implemented that state yet to toggle between the favorite outline icon and the favorite icon. So now we can go back here and continue. Okay, where should we start? We should probably change this to a stateful widget, because now we need to toggle between two different states, which is the safe state and also the unsafe state. So let's convert this to stateful widget. Okay. Now we can do what? We can have a state here that is doing this. So this safe list should contain a list of string. And then after this, we should be using it to check that if our entry is safe or not. So let's see. If we tap on each icon, then it should just add the entry to our safe list. And then by tapping it again, it should remove it from the safe list. So, okay, let's do this. First, we need to implement the on tap. So on tap should put it at where? At here, inside the list tab. Okay, put on tap here. Set. Yeah, we should use set state. So now we can do this save dot add the entry. Okay, now we have this, and then we can try to run the test again, see if it passes. Nope, it still failed because it hasn't used the state to change our icon yet. So we can do something here. So how do we check that if it's already saved? We can have a new variable. Let's call this already saved. So already saved means that your save list contains the entry. Correct? Okay. Then after that, here, we can use it to check that, okay, if it's already saved, then we use the favorite icon. If not, then we use the favorite outline icon. This should do. Let's run our test and pray. Okay, so it passed. All right. I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to stop here. Yeah, so now that you can see, we have quite a few test cases written already. And then here we can see that we also have this. And yeah, it's here you can see that there is an error because probably this entries is now somewhere. Yeah, I think it's because of this part. No, sorry. It's because in the main.dart, we are pumping in without the entries. So let's do this. So if we have this, then we should see an empty screen. If we have name1 and name2, then we will see that name1 and name2 has its own list tile, and tapping on this will change it to the field icon. So yeah, this is what we have built so far. And I'm going to stop here. Okay, let me switch back to the presenter view. Okay, just to recap, so what are the first steps? So first we created a test and we name it with the widget name _test.dart and make sure that it fails. Then after that, we will go ahead and create the widget that we want to test. And then we run the test again, make sure that it passes. After that, then we continue to write the test until it fails again. And then we will add some code in our implementation in our widget file until it passes, and we repeat the cycle. So this is the essence of TDD. And then just now I have shown you a quick demo in Flutter. How do you implement TDD with Flutter? Yeah, so that's all for my sharing today. You can find me on LinkedIn, GitHub, and I also have a Facebook group that is by Women Who Code. So in this group, we will put up some discussion on or a question on Flutter. And you can also follow me on Twitter. And hopefully by the end of the talk, I can upload some of the remaining code and tests into my GitHub repository. So if you're interested, you can just follow me on GitHub. And that's all from me. Thank you very much. And over to you now, Rachel.
Hi guys. So if you have any questions you would like to ask Yong Shean, just ask away in the chat space at the side. Or Yong Shean, if there's anything you would like to add on, maybe you can add on a bit first before everybody goes all shy and not talk.
Okay, I actually don't have anything more to add because I actually still have many more tests and implementation that I could cover, but unfortunately with the time constraint, I couldn't cover them all. So the remaining code, I will just upload it to my GitHub. Yep, that's all.
Okay, nice. So if you guys still have any questions, you can contact Yong Shean directly and pop her some questions and anything you would like to know. I'm sure she will help you with that. All right. So let me just. All right. So next we have our second speaker who will be joining us is Chee Seng. So Chee Seng will be sharing with us his job hunting experiences in UI UX. And Chee Seng is now a design apprentice at Stampede. Professionally, he helps clients translate business goals into useful and pretty prototypes. So let's welcome Chee Seng.
Hi everyone. All right, let me share my screen. All right. All right, cool. Hi everyone, I'm Chee Seng. A little bit intro about myself is I'm also a core organizer for GDG Cloud KL. So you might have seen me before in some of GDG Cloud's webinars or online events, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's also a Cloud DevFest. And at the same time, I think Rachel introduced already. I'm currently a design apprentice at Stampede Design. What I do is I transfer business goals or technical goals into visual prototypes. That's what my part mainly is. There's actually a lot more than that, but as a designer, that's just so much you can do technically. So let me, all right. Oops, just gonna, all right. So what to expect today from this talk is technically um, me talking about my experience being an interviewee in design interviews. Besides that, there's also what I'll be drilling down is things that happens before interviews, during interviews, the good, the bad, and ugly part, which is where the actual meat is, and also finally what happens after interviews. So this is what you guys will be expecting if you're watching this live right now. And at the same time, who is this for? What I want to add is people who are actually currently seeking for design roles, and people who actually want to transition into design roles currently as well. And of course, even though it's specifically for aspiring designers, this is also a talk that is quite fitting for people who is going to out in the real world searching for jobs, because there are a lot of steps which is going to overlap anyways in any design in any interviews which you'll be facing in the future. So these are one of those companies that actually accepted my cover letters and also my resume, and then I made it through kind of like one of the last few stages, but I failed. But at the same time, there are companies I managed to work with, like Alphos and Stampede. Currently, I'm already working at Stampede, and the interview processes are really, really interesting, and I learned a lot from them. These are one of many, many companies that have accepted me after the resume and also the initial steps. So I got into their interview process and managed to learn a lot from that. So Gojek, Faith, Alphos, and Stampede is one of the good companies that really does interviewing and recruitment really, really well and thorough. So let's jump into things that happens before interview. So before interviews, all right, before interviews, we're not talking about interviews, that's before interviews. So what comes before interviews? So first thing here we're talking about is you as a job seeker who's very hungry for opportunities. You're keeping tabs of any information. You're identifying opportunities. What you need to do is always on the lookout for opportunities, like on LinkedIn, social media. It's very the job seeking techniques compared to last time is a very different world. Companies you actually dream to work with. So for me, besides Stampede, I also dream to work in Figma. It's one of the design tool companies, Figma and Notion. Those are companies that I aspire to be with in the future as well. So find the companies that you actually aspire to be with. So it's very important, and also always on the lookout. The second point is reading the requirements. So after identifying a specific opportunity, it's very important to read requirements. Although you might see requirements overlap from job to job, like for example, if you're looking for product designer or interaction designer's job, you might see a lot of overlapping, but again, do make sure to read them. It's very, very important to know what the company wants from you, and also what you can provide based on the current skill set you have. Yeah, that is very important, because if you are really, really trying to get that specific job and you don't have that some of the skill sets listed in the requirements, you may be able to read about it or train a little bit before clicking apply or sending the application form. So that is one thing. Reading requirements thoroughly is important. And third is to update your resume according to the requirements. So this is one of the side things, but also very vital. So don't pass the same resume to every company you apply to. Although you're applying kind of like the same job, different companies has different requirements and also different specific culture. Adjust your resume accordingly to each of the company. Like, for example, like a company who wants an interaction designer and you have some experience in that area, but in your current or previous job, you are actually a product designer. Of course, being a product designer, you kind of touch a little bit here and there, business side, interaction side, visual side, or maybe a little bit of front end side as well. So you can adjust your resume specifically and write the skills that is related to interaction design, so that recruiters can scan that specific work while they are actually scanning. They are not reading; they're scanning your resume. So that's a thing you need to know. They take like less than 30 seconds just to complete one resume. They won't read it through. That's one thing. Scanning for keyword is what they do most, because imagine you're a recruiter, you need to scan through 100 or even thousands a day. I'm not reading a bunch of A4 papers. I'm just going to scan for keywords. And fourth is to send a cover letter. This is something that I recommend new job seekers or new graduates to do, although it is mostly optional in a lot of companies. You might see it when you apply to Google as well. They have a checkbox that say, do you want, actually it's not a checkbox, I forgot what it is, but they would ask you for more information, whether you want to send cover letter or additional supporting documents to help you in your application process. I do recommend you to do that because it shows you have interest, you spend time to look in that job requirement, and yeah, you really spend time to look into it, respect their job requirement. So introduce inside your cover letter. It should be one page. Do keep in mind, it can't be too long. Again, although they are not really scanning this time for cover letter, they might read through, but they won't read everything as well. But they are doing more detail than just scanning your resume. So inside your cover letter, do take a note here is to introduce yourself briefly, what you have done before or currently doing, what you can offer to the company, because right now you're kind of like telling why company wants to hire you, right? And what you're really good at. And also finally, why you are the one that the company should choose. So this is how a cover letter is supposed to look like in terms of content. But of course, different companies, different requirements. Again, read the requirements and customize your cover letters and resume accordingly to the company you're applying to. So that is one thing. Now, after all you've done this, fifth process is to repeat, because again, getting an interview is a very tough job, and it's also a numbers game. The more you do it, you increase the chances of getting it. I've failed a lot of times. So the companies that I've listed is only 4 out of many, maybe like 50. So that is the hard part. You have to repeat the process from 1 to 4. Besides repeating, of course, you should iterate the entire process as well, because you're going to fix your wrongdoings and improve from there. And that is it for what happens before interview. So you've done all these things from step 1 to step 4 properly, repeat the process, and finally you scored an interview. Yeah, you're happy. Finally, out of 50 applications, you scored 1, and that's really good because again, it's a numbers game. Now you scored an interview. What happens next? What happens next is during the interviews, and before again jumping into the very detailed interview process, kind of looks like this. I'm not even going to show you all yet. First process is first interview is with the recruiter. All right. This is a brief introduction. The second one is interview with design team. The third one is whiteboard challenge. This is one of the very interesting ones that I'm going to talk about. The fourth and last one is interview with the head of design or design lead, depending on company what they call it, or HR head. Again, this process is not fixed in every organization. Every organization is very, very different. Some requires less process, some requires more. Bigger startups or corporations like Apple and Google, you will definitely experience like maybe 5 or 6 stages from what I know. Small startups, of course, they don't have that capacity to hire so many people, but at the same time, the process is lesser, maybe 1 or 2. Yeah, so that is the difference there. So it's not fixed. Don't be scared. Depending on the company you are applying to, processes are different. But this is what I have experienced so far after my experience in interviewing. And let's move on to the first one, first interview with recruiter. Right, so there are 4 stages more. You'll start sweating on me. Okay, while you guys start sweating, I'm going to take a sip of tea. Relax, it's only the beginning. But yeah, I'm going to walk you through it so that you feel a little bit more comfortable, even though there's 4 stages here. All right, let's get into the first stage. So first stage is interviewing with the recruiter. So what happens in the first interviewing recruiter? So usually the first stage is pretty short because it's just a short call through your phone, via your phone actually. So normally the recruiter or the HR person from the company, she or he will call you or email you. Most of the time they will email you first and then call you because they want to know what time they can call you. So that is how it should work. And they call you, what they want to know is just to get to know more about you, what you're currently doing, what are your plans in the future. Even though you've kind of already written it in your cover letter, they currently right now wants to hear from you directly. So that's the purpose of the first interview with the recruiter. And again, I've mentioned recruiter wants to know more about you verbally through yourself. And also, meanwhile, although they talk about a lot of your professional stories, they also want to know about a little bit of your personal stories. Not your grandfather's story, of course. Don't say everything from beginning until the end. You have time. The recruiter also have time. So summarize it into something like this. Introduce yourself. Where have you been working? Where are you currently working? What is your main task as a product designer, interaction designer, visual designer? What is your main task? What you like to do? Summarize into chunks of points that you can speak properly and can be quite conclusive, so people can understand easily. Because again, they are hearing only from your phone, so their main tool is their ears. So you need to be very, very clear, short and concise. Keep it short and concise. Yeah, that's the KISS method, KISS. And thirdly, ask questions. So although you're talking about your grandfather's story, not your grandfather's story, your recruiter wants to know more about you. And at the same time, you should know more about the company from the recruiter's lens. So this is because it triggers interest. It tells the recruiter you are someone who is really interested in applying to this job, and at the same time, if your questions are actually good, they know that you've put effort into applying the job, even though it's the first stage in the process. Example at questions is that, how does a recruitment process work in the organization? You may not know, because most of the time they won't paste it in their landing page or career page that this is how it should work, step 1, step 2, step 3. Most of the time they want you to ask this question because they won't tell you straight front in their landing page. So do ask it, because it gives yourself a little bit more information on what to expect if you pass or even if you fail. But most of the time you won't fail in the first stage actually, unless you're already shit. The second one is The second type of question you can ask is how many person are in the design team. This is like the additional supporting question. Just move the conversation, and what is the next step after this for you? Again, asking questions, very important. It happens in every stage throughout the process. So that's it for stage one. Actually, if I were to be more specific in asking questions, again, how does the recruitment process look like? This is like a recap. You can take a note. You can note it down. What is the structure of the design team? How does it look like? Who's the head? Does that design team? What is the process? The structure of the design team. What is the next step after this? Very, very important. This is extra information for yourself. So if you don't ask it, you don't know what to expect. You can't prepare. So be prepared. Ask questions. Show interest, and it's really good for the application process moving forward. So that's for stage one. Woo! That's for stage one. Yeah, and that's only for stage one. We have 3 stages to go. So let's continue. Let's start it. Press enter. Boom. Second stage. Second stage is interview with design team. Second stage is interview with design. We have passed the first interview with recruiter. Now we get another call or email again and telling you, hey, Chee Seng, you have congratulations, you have passed the interview with recruiter, or me, because if I'm a recruiter. And now we will be proceeding your process into our next stage, which is interviewing with our design team. So design teams, of course, when you hear the word team, it's more than just one person, maybe a group, 3 or 4. It's not really that scary, actually. Yeah. So what happens inside interviewing with inside design team? So first thing that happens is, of course, presentation. But right now, you're presenting your portfolio. I'm going to talk about the presentation later on. Portfolio, yep. And second is getting to know the design team's culture. This is you from the lens of yourself, getting to know how it looks like. Because right now you can see some people from design team. Depending on organization, you can see all the people. If smaller or mid organizations, you probably see the entire design team. But of course, in big ones like Google, of course you won't see the entire design team. Even in the small department, you may only be seeing the ones who are recruiting you, maybe 3 or 4. Don't be intimidated. They are very friendly. As far as my experience tells, it's 100% friendly of all my interviews. Again, ask questions ×2. Every stages really need to ask questions. Again, show interest. Now, diving into each of those points is like what stage 2. What does it mean by presentation of portfolio? So when we say presentation of portfolio, usually you don't present your entire portfolio as a designer. You present maybe 1 or 2 projects from your portfolio in a format of slides, for example, like this Google Slides or PDF deck. Yeah, and simply because again, if you actually manage to pass through until stage 2, they most probably already took a look at your portfolio, but they want to hear it from you, how you explain the entire design process coming out in your own project. But at the same time, they don't want to hear everything. So this is one thing you might need to train yourself to answer the questions. And yeah, inside each of the projects you are presenting, talk about your role, because unless you are a product designer in a startup, which normally you are the sole designer, the only designer, you might be involved in decision making, research, wireframing, UI design, and testing. That is normally what happens when you're the only designer in a startup. You can talk about that. But when you're in a larger company or corporations before, your role is more specific. Sometimes you're only the UI designer. So talk about your role in that specific project and the problem you're solving, the processes, how it looks like, your process as well. Because even though there's a high-level process. You as a UI designer specifically, you have your own process. How does it work? And the challenges you face doing the project, and also how you measure the outcome. So this is something that I kind of fail in some of my interviews. So I would like to point this out, that how you measure the outcome of each of your project is very important. The metrics, setting the metrics. Because again, you can do all this like fancy design processes, UI stuff, very fancy stuff, very cool looking. In the end, what is the feedback? How does it measure when it comes to customers? How does it work? Is it reliable? Is it effective in solving the problem? That's another story. So knowing how to measure and whether you measure or not is very, very important. And most of the time, they are very interested. Because they might think, the thing that you're presenting is not really gonna work, but at the same time, you have the data. I kind of test it with a few persons. So this is what I found out. So there might be, oh, well, okay, you did the job in researching it at the end, even though it's not necessary, because sometimes it's a side project. So, but that is a good one. And also at the same time, again, ask questions times 2, but this time you're asking the team's questions, thoughts on your project, how did it go, what do they think, some of the brainstorming, you can throw around ideas. And after all these very hectic jobs like presenting your projects and getting feedback from the team, you can ask a little bit of chill questions to the team if you have time. Most of the time, you do have time. It's like, how do they work? Why they do what they want? Why they do what they do at their own organization? So get the sense of how the team works, each of the individual works, and what is their personality-ish. So some of the minor information that you can get, because even though you are not working with them yet, you can actually trigger like some interest from them. Oh, this guy is friendly, and ask about some of our work. Why do I do? Because you kind of know whether organization is doing okay or not from the lens of their employees. So this is also a small tip. If their employees is kind of they can't answer too much questions, they don't know what to answer, then you might want to reconsider. But if they can answer the questions properly and at the same time very enthusiastic, then you kind of know that this company is worth it. Yeah. So that's some of the tips to identify whether you're at the right stage. And of course, that is all for stage 2. It's pretty straightforward. Again, portfolio presentation, keep it short and simple, straight to the point, ask questions. And that is stage 2. So, all right, hang in there, guys. We're getting into stage 3, which is one of the most interesting in the entire design process. So we are already sweating just now. Right now, we are sweating more because we're venturing into stage 3, which is a challenge itself. Now, what happens in stage 3? So stage 3 is actually a whiteboard challenge. So some companies do it, some companies don't. Again, I know that Google does it, Gojek does it. So larger ones that does it. So what is a whiteboard challenge? So whiteboard challenge is basically like a design challenge for you specifically. You are doing it live, by the way. It's not like a homework you take home, actually. You're doing it live with the recruiter themselves, with the design team. So you're not alone. So the purpose of it is to test your problem solving knowledge and your competency. Even though you might be a junior, but they want to see how you solve, even though you are a junior level. So depending on the position you apply, they will still have a whiteboard challenge, a junior level whiteboard challenge, senior level, or maybe a design lead level. But most of the time when you're interviewing for design lead or managerial level, the whiteboard challenge doesn't make sense here. But because you might need to touch a little bit more on the business side because you're managing right now. But the whiteboard challenge is normally happening for junior designers or senior ones when you're still very technical on what you do. The second one is, of course, because right now it's virtual, everything is virtual, right? What I experienced before is that normally whiteboard challenges, you need to go to a company, and then because they have a conference room and you just do your design solving on their whiteboard, and meanwhile the design team is with you. That's the pre-COVID era. So we are talking about the COVID era and also post-COVID era. We will need webcams because, and also whiteboard, your own whiteboard. You can get a small whiteboard, mini whiteboard, but I have a big one. So, and if you don't have a whiteboard, it's not like a must actually. So I need to point that out. If you don't have whiteboard, you can draw it. You can have A4 papers. Unless you don't have A4 papers, then I'm not sure what to say, but maybe use newspaper. But yeah, you don't have to have buy a whiteboard. If you don't have a whiteboard, you can get A4 papers instead. Because still you can write stuff. A4 papers is white and blank as well. So you can write like this, then you show it to your camera. Yeah, something like that. Of course, you need to explain, don't just show, right? Thirdly, you're not alone. Again, I need to mention this. Don't be afraid in whiteboard challenge, because whiteboard challenge is not only you solving the problem. Although you are the one writing all the processes, all the notes around the whiteboard, the design team will actually work with you, will guide you through. So that brings us to the fourth point. Again, ask question times 1,000. I'm going to write this until 9,000, but asking questions here is more important than the previous two stages, because if you do not ask enough questions here, you are not clear on what you're solving. So that is very important in these stages. You shouldn't be too shy. Yeah. So if you are shy, then you won't get the job. So that's a thing. It's a reality. But for whiteboard challenge, you must ask questions. If you are not clear even in one bit, clarify with the team, because the team is there for a very specific reason. They are not only there to see whether you're good or not. They're also there to help you with the whiteboard challenge. So they are technically your team member in that specific problem. So more on stage 3, right? So you don't have to rush. Take your time. I think you have at least 2 hours. But from my experience, the team won't rush you. It's like, we are short on like 1 hour. You have to do it fast. But of course, you don't take too much of your time as well. Take your time accordingly and also wisely. Don't just think too much. Sometimes you just write it down. The challenge is, again, to see how you come up with the solution, not the solution itself, because you're not coming up with a advanced UI. It's only sketches on whiteboard, or again, if you don't have whiteboard, on A4 paper. So you're not building any UI at all. You don't need to use Figma or Sketch. You're only doing it on whiteboard. So that is how whiteboard challenges work, because everything is doing on whiteboard or A4 paper. So you don't have to expect the team to tell you to come up with high fidelity solution. That is not going to happen. So that is one thing. You might be less sweaty right now. And collaboration and communication with an interviewer is very vital. Again, besides knowing how you come up with a solution, your process, they also want to know whether you can collaborate well with them and also communicate well with them. Because again, you might be working with other clients who is strangers to you. Then are you not going to talk to your clients? That's impossible, right? So right now, they are also examining your collaboration techniques and communication techniques. So it's like asking, oh, is this the correct one? Am I doing a proper one? What is this? What is that? These are questions you need to ask. There are no specific good questions. There are only questions you do not know and you need to clarify. So that can be anything, because depending on the problems that the company is giving you. but it's important. And besides that, don't stay quiet. Not only communicating and collaborating, you will also need to talk to yourself-ish, or writing small notes around your whiteboard or A4 paper or sticky notes. Because sometimes when you think out loud, you're saying things like stuff 1 plus 1 equals to 2. Sometimes 1 plus 1 equals to 3 in your head. Doesn't make sense, right? But if you say it out loud, it might make yourself clearer, and at the same time, it also tells the recruiter who is on the other side of the world through the lens of the webcam, knows that you are actually thinking, and also thinking properly, not like thinking without thinking. Yeah, talking to yourself is normal. Writing small notes around the whiteboard is also encouraged. It's also normal and encouraged. But of course, if you want to practice how to write properly and you showcase your entire whiteboard is organized, you have to practice a lot. Because sometimes if it's your first time, it might be a little bit messy. The notes are here and there. Then when you present, you need to be more specific. So it takes time to write notes properly on whiteboard and at the same time for A4 paper, because right now A4 paper is limited and you have to present through only the lens of your webcam. You need to do something like this. Yeah, you're pointing a different view. So that's that for stage 3. It is not easy, I would say. People get nervous. I also get nervous because besides the challenge, it's also very long. It's like 2 hours. So it's very, very tiring. But again, take your time. The interviewer wouldn't rush you, and just focus on communicating, collaborating, and also solving a problem. So if you only focus on those 3 things, you most of the time are able to pass. And at the same time, be clear on what you're solving. If you're not clear, ask questions. Again, ask questions. Very important. And that is it. Stage 3 is done. And we are almost there. Almost there. Stage 3 is done. Jim is telling us we're almost there. And what happens after stage 3? So what happens after stage 3 is interviewing with head of design and HR head. And this is actually it's not really a stressful stage. It's quite chill. It's as chill as the first stage. I would say it's much more chill because right now, interviewing with the head of design or design lead, you're talking a little bit more on the technical terms. Don't talk about things that why you want to do, your aspiration, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you can chat about the tools you like to design with. Yeah, so it's pretty chill session. And the purpose of this is to actually for the head of design or the design leader to get to know whether you are a good fit to their team. It's more like a cultural test-ish by talking to you. And of course, I need to emphasize this the 4th time, ask questions 3,000. Yeah, ask questions 3,000. What are the questions you can ask here? I'm gonna tell you is that what are some projects that they are currently working on, which they are excited about. Of course, they won't reveal everything, right? But so for example, like take Google as an example. So they might be working on the next Google phone, Pixel phone. And of course, you might have heard rumors, so they can kind of tell you ish about some technologies they're implementing. Of course, they are not telling you every single detail, right? Because that's a trade secret. But asking this question is to know what you are expecting to work at, and also whether the design lead himself or herself is excited about the project. So if he or she is excited, again, they know the in and out. And sometimes if they want to tell you but they can't tell you because of trade secret, they will also tell you, I can't tell you this, but it's really exciting. Yeah, because we are kind of implementing some of the design techniques here, or the technical implementation is there, the technology. Yeah, so that's one question you can ask. The second question is, what are the future plans of the organization? Sounds a bit normal, but it's very important as well, because organization without future plan is going to die soon. Um, yeah. So knowing whether the company or organization has a future or has plans is very important, because again, you're not changing job, that you shouldn't be you should know that you won't need to change job that often. If the company is good, you might be able to stay 2 to 3 years. If you think that companies doesn't have future plans, what they are excited about, then you might want to reconsider. Like future plans, next 5 years, next 10 years. Companies, yeah. This is a normal thing from the company, but it's very important. Normal, but very important. And also telling the head of design what you want to achieve as a designer in their organization is also important, because again, is to the head of design is right now currently getting to know you, so give him or her the information, because they will evaluate that internally and with the other designers that who interviewed you before. And also the end is, what do you like the most? You're asking the head of design, what do you like the most, the one thing that makes you click apply, uh, even without looking at the requirements. So this is kind of like a reverse questions, right? Even though it's like a job application, you can kind of ask the head of design why you apply, why you're working in the company right now, what excites you before you join this company, what are the technology? Because right now he may join like 1 year ago or 2 years ago. Of course, the things that excited him is already a past right now, but since it's a past, that means he can review it. He or she can review it. So that's a thing that you can talk about. So that's, yeah. And that is it. If you pass this stage, you'll most probably survive the entire process. Again, I do have to specify, this is not done in every organization. It depends on organization. Big companies usually have much more longer process, because again, they don't want to simply just hire someone. They want to hire someone who is capable and knowledgeable at what they do. Because if they are hiring a wrong person, you need to fire, you need to spend time firing, you need to spend time training, and you need to spend time looking for another good fit. That's a lot of time spent for organization, which is not good. Yeah. So they would rather spend the time hiring the right one, so they don't need to look for another one. So this is from their lens, because you need to spend money and time. They don't have time to do that. Yeah. And if you pass the fourth stage, you survive. You can celebrate. Yay. Again, depending on company, you can celebrate now, or you may celebrate in the stage 6. I'm not sure what happens in stage 6, but yeah, normally it's like that. Yeah. All right, what happens next after you survive? So what happens after the interviews? After interviews, what happens next? So there are only two outcomes. Although you are celebrating already, but again, there are only two outcomes. You have survived, that's a good thing. You either pass your interview, although you survive, or you either fail, although you survive. Yeah, but you tried. See, I tried and I failed. Yeah, but again, regardless you pass or fail, there is always something to do. There's always something better you can do to proceed. Now we talk about the things that you pass first, right? Let's say you pass. Very happy pineapple there. Celebrate, of course, you can celebrate, because right now, not only you've managed to survive the entire interview process, you've also passed the entire interview process. So, of course, it worths a celebration. The second one is, of course, it is only the beginning. So never stop learning and improve, because right now you're getting into the organization, you're getting to know the ones that who has interviewed you before, getting to know them in a deeper level, on a personal level. So never stop learning and improve, and also ask why they choose you. This is like kind of like a optional question, but you should ask it maybe after a few days or after a few weeks, when you're more comfortable with the team and the team is more comfortable with you, because again, you are a stranger to them even though they interview you. But once they are much more comfortable with you, they kind of joke around you, joke with you, not around you, sorry, joke with you, talk about your personal stuff, then you can ask why they choose you, because you know, you kind of know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and you know how to improve it. Not in the next interview, of course, but how to improve it in your job, because the interview is it's kind of like a conclusive reflection of what you did in the past, because you're gonna conclude everything you did in the past and say, I'm good at this, why? That's how interviews are, right? Then they want to know why they should hire you. So this is based on all your past experience, and you're creating a past experience for yourself in the future. Yeah, kind of get like, what are you talking about? Yeah, but you will get it when you're trying to apply and you're learning. Right, and if you fail, don't be sad. Or you can be sad anyways. You can be sad, but don't be sad too long. So because there's just so much time you can be sad. The first thing you do after you spend your time being sad is you should be sad maybe a day, and then the next day you just need to wake up, kick ass, and repeat again. Yeah, that's a quote there. Do send an email asking why they didn't select you. Yeah, if they reject you without giving a reason, a lot of companies do this. I think it's not really a good thing, but again, sometimes it's inevitable, because imagine Google rejects you and they give you a reason, which is a very good thing, but sometimes the company is just so big and the amount of people they hire is just so much. They might not have time to type it, or maybe if they really do, which is a very good thing, they have a very simple, conclusive reason why they don't. But that's for big companies. Small companies, if they reject you without giving a reason, normally it's really bad, because I think they have time actually, but yeah, do ask for the reason why, and sometimes they get back to you, sometimes they don't. If they get back to you, it's a good thing. I've experienced like 65% of people don't reply to me asking why. Yeah, so that's normal. But the companies above who rejected me actually tells me why I didn't make it. So it's a good thing. And one of them actually states like what you're good at and what you're bad at. And these are things you can improve in the next interview if you want to come back. Yeah, so that's a very good one. Yeah, and reflect the entire process and identify gaps. Yeah, you can reflect your process again with your friends. Make your friends become the interviewer. Although they are also the ones seeking an interview, they can train themselves as an interviewer from the interviewer's lens. Reflect again, identify gaps, because right now you have a lot of time, right? You're not rushing, so you can identify your gaps easily, and also apply the improvements in your next interview. Yeah, again, iterate. It's like a software development process. It's like identify gaps, bugs, and then improve in the next version. Repeat. Right. Before I end this, I have like some extra tips for you if you're interviewing from home. So you see a lot of WFH, work from home. Yeah, that's boring already. Gonna change it to interview from home, IFH. This came out this morning, but right, what are the interview from home tips? Conduct your interview in a quiet place. Sounds very logical and normal, but a lot of people don't do it properly. Like imagine actually it happens when you're doing a video call with your friend as well. Sometimes they're just in like mama or outside, and then they call you, wanted to talk, but how the hell am I going to listen to him when the background noise is so loud? So select your place properly. Make sure no one's interfering, or if you expect interference, tell your family members or maybe a pet dog. Don't tell a pet dog. You can if you can communicate. But schedule a time with your family. Say, I'm having an interview at this specific time. Don't kacau me. Don't interfere with my time. You can go play around with others in other areas in your house, but I have an interview and I need to be in a quiet place so that my interviewer can hear me explaining properly. Yeah, because again, sometimes you are not required to turn on your webcam, but the main thing that they're receiving is voices. So clear and concise voices is very important. Although webcam does let you let the interviewer see your face, but your face doesn't really help that much in terms of information. Yeah. Have a pen, paper, notebook by your side because sometimes you might want to take notes. So very important. So if you don't have it by your side, then sometimes you get like a bit nervous trying to find papers around. So get it ready. Entire interview process that you might want to take note for yourself. Yeah. Make sure your machine's webcam and microphone are working properly and you are in an area with good lighting. Again, this is an addition to the quiet place as well. Your webcam should be working. Your microphone, more importantly, your microphone actually should be working. And at the same time, if you are using your webcam, please be in an area with good lighting because you don't want to turn on a webcam and the interviewer seeing only your shadow. That's basically useless and kind of like doesn't make sense. So have a good lighting, sit beside a window at the morning or get a lamp, turn on the lights so that the interviewer can see you clearly and know that verify that this is the guy we are interviewing. And lastly, get ready a bottle of water or a cup of tea. Just like me, you'll be seeing me sipping a lot of tea in the entire presentation. But it's very important because like how we are talking right now, we keep on talking for the last 40 minutes. So sometimes you lost your voice when you're too excited and you keep continuing in speaking. So be sure to get ready a bottle of water or a cup of tea by your side to stay hydrated. Very important because you don't want to be awkward, right? It's like, then wait, I'm gonna get water. That's awkward, and at the same time, you wasted maybe 2 minutes. So not a good thing. All right, so that is it for some special tips when you're interviewing from home. And my final words is from Dory. Just keep swimming. So this may be you. Um, this may be you. It's like, this interview sucks. But again, just keep swimming. This is me telling you, just keep swimming and swimming and swimming. You might find the right place and the right interview eventually. But you have to keep swimming and iterate. Don't just keep swimming, but also swimming without past experience and knowledge. And without that, and of course, useful resources. I think this slide will be shared. So in case it's shared, these are links. This is the first one is actually a Medium article called "Crushing the Product Design Whiteboard Challenge." It's one that I read before I conduct the whiteboard challenge. The second one is the sprint book. That you might ask why is a sprint book here, but the sprint book is basically the design process book. So if you read through it, you practice a little bit, you are able to actually shrink down some of the processes in your own design process. You can retrofit into a lot of the stuff. So it's very important for you to get to know the entire design process because a sprint book is not only focused on the design itself, it's focusing on other stakeholders because interviewing, especially whiteboard challenge and also design interviews, you're not talking to one specific person in each process. You're talking to multiple persons. So knowing how to handle multiple persons in one situation is very important. And presenting portfolio, these are YouTube videos by a YouTuber and also a product designer at Uber called Femke. Yeah, Femke. You can search her channel on YouTube. She has videos on presenting portfolios, product design interviews, Uber's whiteboarding UX challenge, which I watched before. I wouldn't recommend you if I don't watch it. So it's not like I searched yesterday night and then, oh, this is the title is fitting that I paste it here. These are things that I've used it before, which is why I'm recommending here. And that is it for my entire talk. So thank you. So this is my social media accounts. I don't have TikTok, sorry, but I have Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can add me there. Right, that's it for my slide. Thank you. I'm gonna pass it back to Rachel. Rachel.
Hi, thank you, Chee Seng, for the really interesting thoughts on your experience. So guys, are there any questions you would like to ask him? Just throw it into the comments below and he can get to you guys. Anyways, so for now, since we have a little bit of time left, we would like you guys to just pull out your phones and scan this QR code and give us some feedback on how we can improve and how we can do better the next round, and also give us some suggestions on what topics you guys would like to have. Anything with Android, web, just let us know inside the feedback form, and yeah, we can make something out of it. All right. So anyways, later there is another session by GDG George Town as well, the Google Business Group George Town. They will be having a session at 2 p.m. They have 2 speakers, so watch out for that. And if you guys are interested, you can always head over to our Facebook page and GBG's Facebook page as well as GDG's Facebook page, and you can see all our upcoming events and whatnot there. All right, so that concludes our session for today. Thank you very much and have a good Saturday. Bye. Thank you very much, Yong Shean and Chee Seng, for this 2 hours. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.